Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. And today I've returned to Danny's Vintage Watches. We are in the heart of New York City. How are you, sir?
I am good. It's always a pleasure to see you.
And you've got these incredible pieces here. You're going to share a little bit of your story and how you got into this. I've been a customer of yours from way back when you were on eBay. I think it's the first communication.
Pre-COVID days. This when I was a baby, when I was a fetus. I remember a long time ago. I'm surprised you even remember.
It was a JLC, wasn't it?
It was a JLC in 14 karat gold with it was champagne. When was this? This was like 2018 or 2019. Ironically, right. I was in Milan at the time. I was a kid. I was literally a kid. I was with parents. I was 19. Yeah, it was a JLC in 14 karat yellow gold from the 60s, late 50s, early 60s on a green manual wine on a green lizard leather strap when watches weren't the prices they were now. It's crazy that jogged up in your memory.
And then this summer, I happened to see one of your posts on Instagram. I was interested, so I reached out because I wanted to see it in person, right? And because you're in New York, I just thought, why not?
Of course.
And then, sure enough, I didn't put two and two together. I didn't realize you were the same person, and then so it all kind of clicked.
Yeah, it's funny. It is a funny coincidence.
It's a small world. I should also say we are in the heart. We're in the Diamond District. How did all this come about? When did you get into watches?
It's a good question. A lot of people ask, like, what's a kid? What business does a kid have selling vintage watches? These things are 2-3 times older than me. Especially back then. I was into watches since I was 15, 16, but mostly for superficial reasons. It was out of purely aesthetic. I really appreciated watches for good design. And what did I know as a kid? I was still learning, and I'm still learning what good design really means. But back then, it was just, to me, the intrinsic value of what good design was. I never really paid attention to the mechanics of the watch or necessarily the history. Like the hierarchy of interest was design, watch history, and then mechanics. And and there's all types of reasons to love watches. That's the beauty of the hobby, right? I never thought I'd be selling vintage watches. If you asked me when I was 16, 17 what I'd be doing, I thought I'd be doing what everyone's telling me to do. Since high school, since college. I went to Brook College, not too far from here.
Right.
And I did finance. I thought I had to pursue, a soul-sucking career with wearing a suit and tie, crunching in numbers. I realized it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I was still trading watches, like trading examples of watches on the left, like on this table that we're going to talk about today, and why they're so, We are in the Diamond District.
Yeah, we are in New York City.
This is the lightest. We had a hectic morning yesterday. Yeah, someone was giving away a lot of free Rolexes, and that kind of caused havoc in the streets.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it happens once in a while.
So you were explaining earlier, so you've selected, this is part of the reason I wanted to do this, because and hopefully I'll get to, I don't want to interview just like celebrities or that for their namesake. What interested me about your watches was that you have a very eclectic taste.
A lot of people come in and always ask us, like, how do you source your watches? Why do you source the pieces that you source? And it's all coming out of the collector in me. Especially my brother. My brother started getting into it. He never liked watches, and he got into it. Now he's in a deeper rabbit hole than me. He's doing the research. He's hunting. He's our gem hunter now also. And I love it. I love to see the passion for the hunt. Everything you see in this showcase is purely out of what I believe a collector would enjoy. Not all of it, but there are some pieces, especially the concept pieces with Piaget, Cartier, Patek, that I think a collector would appreciate.
That's what drew me to your page.
Because a lot of people can sell watches. There's thousands of dealers like me, and we're not special, even in the vintage world. We did learn, I had to learn from some mentors. I had a mentor in the vintage watch space, Jed. You might have seen him before. There's also Guy Guari, another Italian. They kind of raised me in a way with taste also. It's hard to develop your own taste. You kind of cherry pick and learn what is good design. And Guy Guari definitely gets credit for that. I really do appreciate it. And he kind of held my hand in a way, explaining prices, explaining what good product, explaining even where he finds his pieces.
I know you've got beautiful Datejust, and you've got some Speedmasters over there. And
the bread and butter.
Bread and butter, exactly.
And we always recommend them.
Yeah.
We always tell everyone, go for an Omega Speedmaster, a Cartier Santos, and a Rolex Datejust. Right. That's our shtick.
But then you've got stuff like this.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
I love it.
It's a little bizarre. This is the birth. This is the start.
This is the birth here. So you got a Croton, and you were telling me this is your grandfather's?
This is my grandfather's. This is my mother's father's. So when I was 15, my grandfather said, Danny, we're cleaning my garage, but this is the watch that caught my eye. This is a watch, and keep in mind, I didn't like vintage watches back then. I liked watches in general. So it went hand in hand. So when I saw this, I picked it up. I'm thinking like, Babosh, we can't sell this. Like we can't sell this watch. Not because it's financially valuable. It's not. I just didn't want to sell it. And he's like, no, get rid of it. It's, it's garbage. We don't need it. Who's gonna wear it? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, let's keep this. And we sold everything else. This resurfaced out of the closet when I was a freshman in college, and we had a speech class, and they said, you have 2 minutes to talk about whatever you like. Whatever you like. It could be anything. You can talk about ice cream, you can talk about socks. And I spoke about, my grandfather, him telling me to throw this out. And I realized like that class helped me get into vintage watches, because I still wasn't into vintage watches. I just liked watches for a superficial reason, honestly. Right. It wasn't out of, it was just an accessory to me.
Because we should do a wristwatch check, because you've got the most.
I love this thing.
This is extraordinary.
Yeah, I love this thing.
Just goes to show you started here, and then now you're
definitely an evolution. And and as a watch collector, it doesn't stop. I'm sure you have more collector experience than me. You see the taste is
only by age.
It's constantly evolving. Like you're gonna want A, and next year you're gonna want B.
Right.
I have watches now that I never thought I'd own. I remember when I was younger, like that's hard, that's tasteless, that's disgusting. And you go full 180. It took me 5-6 years to like it, to develop that taste.
I know exactly.
It took me a while. And then you're looking like, I can't believe I dismissed this watch 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it took me a while to acknowledge the beauty, to whatever it was.
So with this, you were telling me it's form over function.
Exactly.
Amazing curvature to it. And this was originally a ladies' watch?
This was produced for women. This is like an early 2000s example. This is a Cartier Benoit in white gold. I love this thing. Even though it's mechanical, they make them in quartz. And this goes hand in hand with what's going on with the Cartier Crash, where that is all about design. It has nothing to do with the mechanics. Because people will still wear this watch or Cartier Crash if it was quartz. They're not buying it for the movement. They're buying this just because it's, I'm gonna butcher it, the French, but Benoit elongated bathtub. It's literally just the shape after a long bathtub. How bizarre is this, because back then, Cartier was very aggressive with their designs. Maybe they might not be as innovative today, and they're relying on their old catalog. They're working on it, but back then in the 60s and 70s, those houses were strong. I think you hit the nail on the head, because design-wise, they were definitely trying new stuff. They were ahead of their time.
Nowadays, it seems to be all mechanics. It's like proving them. Like a couple of years ago, they did this. They put the movement inside the rotor.
Yeah, and you saying it can spin.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's cool.
It's very interesting. It just goes to show how good original design is, because a lot of brands have copied. A lot of brands have imitated Cartier, not just for the Benoit, but for a lot of shapes, but for good reason. Imitation is the best flatter, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Talking of imitation, you have probably one of the most imitated watches here. The stunning blue, I don't even know what kind of blue that is. It's almost like a denim blue.
Yeah, it's a blue dial date reference 1803. This is from the late 60s, between 67, 68. It's pretty old. I love that you can wear something so old, but it's still it's not in perfect shape, but like you can see, like, a lot of dealers in the business, they love to test the stretch of this. Like most people, they're not aware, but on 47th Street, this dictates price.
Right.
Not the case, not the lugs, not the dial, but this watch is more of a sentimental value to me. This came from my good friend Lyndon. He's another dealer in California. He used to live around here. Me and Lyndon kind of grew up together in the watch dealing space. He's a good friend of mine. I'm very happy that I sourced this from him, because I wore this on my wedding day. This was my wedding watch. This will never leave the collection.
So this would be your midpoint?
So I would say this, I remember this was one of I got married around 1.5 years ago. This was one of the watches when I got it. It was a turning point in both of my collection, and me getting married in it only, I just can't get rid of that.
Of course.
The sentiment's so important, but I love that it also came out of from my friend. When you look at a watch, it gives you the timeline, what was going on in your life.
Right.
When I see this watch, I know where I was. When I see this watch, this reminds me of college. Like, I wore this all throughout college.
So tell me about this.
It's a vintage Timex.
70s, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so the exact year is 77. You see those last two digits? Timex used to put the exact year on the bottom.
glasses.
If you zoom in, you can really. So I love this thing. It's a cheap watch. It's like I was about to say like a department store style kind of watch.
Yeah, like a mall watch.
Yeah, exactly. Like you went to Sears, you went to I don't know if Macy's existed back then, but you went to these kind of stores and you bought a Timex in their showcase.
That's a cool case. Though.
Super edgy, right?
Yeah.
And I remember buying this for $50-$60. I'm like, you can't go wrong. Like at a dealer point of view. It's a manual one.
Nice.
So like, listen, you can't go wrong for $50-$60. When I wore this in college, I remember I was so cheap to buy watches. I remember thinking $500 was like a lot of money. And it is a lot of money to put into something that we don't need the time. We don't need to tell the time on this.
Right.
Whoever's wearing this is not telling the time.
Yeah.
You are not telling the time with this. You are just, you want to make a statement. So with this kind of watch, this was a gateway. This not only got me into dealing, but this got me into collecting and really appreciating design, what you can get for $100, for example.
How did you go from this to, let's say, I mean, at the opposite end, we have these.
Like this is just, well, I would say this has no real sentiment to me. Even though I was overseas, I was in Japan when I sourced this watch. I love this thing. It's almost, it seems to be a one of one with the card matching sapphire bezel, factory sapphire links.
Crazy.
So it's a bizarre watch.
I wore my Santos in your honor today.
I appreciate it. I remember these watches as a dealer. They weren't so popular. Now I would love to pay whatever you pay and more. I will offer you more just because people are looking for them.
Yeah.
We need them.
Yeah.
We can't get enough of them. And I love that. I love that there's this appreciation that vintage watches became more mainstream.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was the weirdo. I was asked like, why do you care about this stuff? It's so old, it's dirty, it's like not running. It was so against the trend of big watches, of new. The concept of a pre-owned watch or the vintage watch especially, or going on eBay, that wasn't there. Now it's all over media. It's cool again to start looking into these vintage watches.
It's so true. I remember when I started doing YouTube videos, it was seen as a niche thing.
100%.
But now like nerdism and kind of enthusiasts of all types, you know, whether it's comics or music or vinyl or watches, it's kind of cool now. It's so strange
100%.
how it's...
And I'm sure you growing up, was there any kind of collecting culture? Like in general? Not even with watches, but did you see like kids?
We collected within our family. Like I'd get a swatch every time we went to Italy on the plane. We'd get a duty-free swatch. So after 10 years of going to Italy every summer, you'd have a collection of 10 swatches.
That's really nice.
Yeah, but so it wasn't a collecting culture. Like this has become.
It was just something you kept to you weren't proud to share. I do this. I'm a nut for.
Yeah. Exactly.
100%.
But now it's like. It's I've seen some of your clients. I'm not gonna name names, but you have very impressive clients who deal with some sports stars, film stars, that kind of stuff. It's like the coolest thing now. And
it's
everyone wants these.
No one would have thought. I definitely did not have the foresight to imagine, and part of it is COVID.
The
part
hype,
of it, definitely. It's a good and bad thing. It's a double-edged sword that we can get into. But before even getting into that, I wanted to talk about how channels like yours really validated kids like me. When I remember like looking into straps and seeing Wrist Candy Watch Club on your. I remember we were talking about this. I remember. I asked my mom. I had no money. As I asked my mom, I was like, "Mom, can I have $40? I want to get some Wrist Candy watch." I remember I was 15, 16 years old. I was in high school.
Crazy.
I remember asking my mom, "Mom, can I have your credit card? I want to buy these straps." And she said no. So it validated our feelings. It validated what we were interested in because there weren't. You were on YouTube 9-10 years.
Yeah,
roughly.
it's been a decade.
It helps.
Yeah,
it really does. Like you have no idea how many kids you've impacted, or even adolescents, even like people in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah,
I felt lucky that I caught on to channels long enough, because now I'm so tired to it's hard to consume YouTube.
It's oversaturated.
There's a lot, yeah. I'm sure you know more than but you see a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of they have good incentive to do it. There's good reason. You did it purely out of enthusiasm.
Right.
There was no incentive.
That's why I'm here. Yeah. That's why I reached out to you, because I was genuinely interested in buying that opal dial. I was so close.
Listen, when
I
chickened
out.
That would have been a perfect watch for you.
I know.
The wrist, the stone. It would have been perfect.
It's 10-year anniversary of starting this thing. I'm getting this Grail watch. If I would have bought that watch.
I know, it's the trajectory.
Yeah, but I'm checking your Instagram. almost daily. I'm trying to stay away
it's
from
dangerous.
it. Yeah.
Listen, I can't help myself either. As a collector, the beauty, and I tell people all the time, it's very difficult to do this for money.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things to do for money in this world. And second, it's just so stressful. This is like any business, as you know, it's 24/7 and you have to cater.
Right.
You have to cater to your clients, you have to cater to your business. It's a baby and you have to nurture this baby. And I tell everyone, you want a deal, do it part-time.
Right.
Do not do this full-time. You are asking for a headache. Unless you are an absolute nut and love watches, you have to eat, sleep and breathe vintage watches to do this.
Yeah.
Like I do. Like I love this stuff and I'm so glad that my brother, David, you know, he elevated the business to another level because I couldn't do this alone. This idea of making vintage watches not only socially acceptable, but we have to encourage it. Our goal is to make it a forefront.
Yeah.
You know, not only just having a physical space, but having it okay, like for people to come in and be interested.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No.
I think that the space here is important, and I'll include some shots so you guys can see. It's not that intimidating boutique experience like the big Fifth Ave stores where it's like doorman there.
Oh, 100%. It is intimidating. They're dressed up. You feel like obligated to buy something. 100%.
What I really appreciated about you when I reached out, before we figured out that I actually had known you from before, sure enough, you welcomed me in, and I recorded some of it in that summer video, and I just felt so at ease, and talking to you, it was just like instant. We're totally on the same level.
I'm still collecting, unfortunately. Like it's still, when I say unfortunately, because it never ends. It's a bug. Yeah. It really is.
What is next for you in terms of, I mean, are you still, I know you're wearing the hell out of this.
Yes, I love this thing, even though it's a very hard watch to wear. This has more sentiment to me. Like this is just one of the most important pieces that we own as a collection, and I love this thing too. As you said, brutalist, aggressive, strictly design driven. Wears more like a piece of jewelry than a watch. But this is more important to me. First, I'm left-handed, and I love that it's left-sided. This was also a tipping point in my collecting journey. I had to trade a lot of watches to get this because I didn't have the money for it. He knew I wanted the watch badly, so that did not help. That did not help the negotiation at all because he was aware of that. But I told him I need to have this watch. What can we do to make this happen? So I gave him a lot of watches for this. But I'm very happy. And this was right when the Midas Polo hype was getting into it. Right now it calmed down a little market-wise, but I just admire it as it's just brutalist, it's heavy, it's large and in charge. It's all you can ask for in a gold watch, but it is a hard watch to wear. You know, you can't wear this at Thanksgiving. You can't wear this, you know, if you're feeling like Elvis Presley for the day. When you need to feel, when you have the bravado, you put it on. But I still admire it as a collector. I don't wear it as much as I should. I wish I did.
I really admire the fact that you've gone for something like this because it's different. It's not your typical.
And every time I wear it, people are like, "What the hell are you wearing?"
Oh my god, it's a serious.
It's not a practical watch. It's not a good daily. This is a statement piece.
This is a serious.
It is. You know,
I cannot stress how heavy this feels.
God forbid you're in a desert, this is the ideal watch to have. Yeah. This is the best watch to trade with some water, with some food. You need a ride home. This is the ideal piece to have on your wrist.
Extraordinary bracelet, folds into
Rolex is really ahead of their time in terms of design, honestly. Yeah. This is from the early 70s, but the original design was in the early to mid 60s.
I love how they put the crown on the side.
It's super aggressive.
Yeah.
It's so, and I love that it's Midas on the side. It's exclusive to this model, you know? When you think of gold Rolex,
Day.
Yeah, it's anonymous with the day. But this is like that next level. You want to upgrade? Like this is the, you know, if you know, you know. If Elvis Presley's cool enough to wear it, in my books, it's insane.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's strictly the architecture. It's insane.
So what have you got your eyes on next?
The problem is I like everything, and my taste's constantly evolving, and I want more and more and more. The problem is I have to sell. It's a never-ending problem. One of my personal grails, I don't know if it's ever gonna happen, is a white gold or a platinum Patek reference 3800. I love the watch, I adore it. It's just a ridiculous watch. Because I'm around watches all the time, and I do tell people this. There's a problem when you're dealing as a collector. You can get numb to collecting. You can get numb with the inventory around you. I'm around watches all day long. We're in a candy store, so it's very...
Do you think that's part of the reason why your tastes
it's a double-edged sword.
Have become quite eclectic in terms of... Because I've never seen you wear like I guess the most normal watch is probably this.
Yeah, that's considered like, within reason of normal.
Normal, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the reason that's kind of pushed you in that direction?
There's just so many watches to wear and we have 2 wrists. That's the problem. I'll tell you this, I'm much better now and I'm still collecting with nuance and I'm always paying attention to nuance. I'm learning on Instagram, I'm learning from other collectors because we, thank God, we have a big community of collectors from all different backgrounds that from a mechanics point of view, from a history point of view, but most importantly to me, aesthetic. I looked at this watch for the first time, the model, I'm like, this is hideous. This is disgusting. It's like, what were they going on?
I think there's a good lesson for the audience, yeah.
You never know what you're gonna like.
Yeah.
So Paul, my friend, is like, Danny, please help me find like, it's funny, like this is the reason, like this mirror right here, you don't see it, it's like, it's Crash-esque. This is the most affordable version of the Crash we're gonna have.
I'll have to get a shot of that.
Yeah, Benoit Crash-esque. We're trying to find something themed for the office.
Yeah.
But this watch reminds me, you never know what you're gonna be into. Paul said, please find me a Benoit. I'm like, I told him, like, why? This was before the hype. He loved it purely out of aesthetic. This was when Cartier was kind of having a moment. It was leaning towards it. This was over a year ago. He said, Danny, find me the watch. I said, why do you like this? Please tell me before I start looking. What do you like about it? He's like, it's just beautiful. So I started getting into it. And after doing my research, I looked at it objectively also as a dealer, but both as a collector, I'm like, I see something here. But it took me a while. It wasn't right away. And because of Paul, he helped me open my heart with this kind of watch, and now I don't take it off. Like this is one of my favorite watches that I wear. And I love when people look at it, I love the reaction of what the hell are you wearing? I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. It's a great conversation starter.
So that's a beautiful lesson. I think I've certainly experienced it, and I'm sure a lot of my audience have as well. What would you say is your biggest mistake in collecting?
That's a good question. Plenty. I would say the biggest mistake is just, and a lot of collectors make this early on. It's typical early on. It's just buying a lot of watches for the sake of buying watches. But just to, how do I say it? It's a good thing because they're experimenting, but you're buying watches for the wrong reasons. You're buying it just for the sake of collecting. And I definitely am fault of that because I love collecting because I see this as art. Like for me to own this, I see it as just how someone buys art for the wall, but art for the wrist. And I had plenty of friends that say, Danny, you gotta downsize, stop buying certain watches for the sake of collecting. And there are collectors that are way worse. You know, they need to have 10 iterations of the same model and, imagine 10 Pepsis and 10 subs. Imagine those collectors that have Comex and then they have this issue Submariner, but they all look the same.
Yeah.
I'm not there, thank God. That's a little far from me. I sympathize with those collectors that need to have every bit. But my problem personally, and it's still a problem that I need to work on, accumulating pieces for the sake of putting the collection together because I just treat it as art. Because I only have 2 wrists, I cannot enjoy everything, but I admire them when I do pick them up.
Does it make you happy?
It does.
So then...
It does,
so then,
but it's not responsible.
Right.
It's not a responsible thing to do, but I love it.
What do you tell your wife?
It's inventory.
It's inventory, nice.
Here's the thing, she's gonna hear it after this and she's gonna be like, Danny, what the hell? So,
I'll cut this out.
But it's a problem. She's gonna hear this. So I was a collector before a dealer, and it's such a fine line when, like this technically was supposed to be inventory. This technically was supposed to be inventory, but I look at it and I'm like, how can I let this go? This was the reason why I got into the business in the first place, to have access firsthand to these collectibles. I don't know where I'm gonna go from here. In terms of collecting,
This is starting to feel like a therapy session.
No, I feel
no, it's great. It's perfect.
Because it never ends. You know better than me.
Yeah.
I remember watching your videos. You were explaining your process going from Seiko to Panerai. I remember how do you say Giugiaro? I don't know if you're into that watch now. I remember that years ago you were talking about it. But I remember there was a hot moment where a few Instagram guys were talking about the Giugiaro. But you were just talking about purely out of aesthetic, purely out of the history of the watch. You just love the watch objectively, regardless of its financial value. That's important. Now you can see, as you said, the market on YouTube is so saturated. Also on Instagram, also on TikTok. It's a double-edged sword. I love when kids come in, my age. We've had kids 15, 16 years old that want to buy a vintage watch. I never would have thought.
That's beautiful.
It's bizarre. I said, you should be in school right now. And second, you're not going to get bullied for, it's cool.
No, it's cool.
I remember in high school, kids were picking on me. Kids were making fun of me. I was the weirdo.
Wow.
So
Wow.
It's nice that it's acceptable, and not only acceptable, but encouraged. It's encouraged, as you said, to collect, to research, to develop your own taste.
And to enjoy it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think that's the perfect way to end this interview. Thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure. 100%.
Thank you.
You're always welcome here. Always feel free
you.
to pop in.
I highly recommend Danny's Vintage Watches. I'll leave a link down below. I'm gonna be back. Let me get my grail.
I don't blame you.
My grail,
100%.
and then I'll be back.
And you have to show it to me because I'm curious about the watch. But it's a very undervalued watch, and the brand as a whole.
I totally agree.
They're gonna have their moment.
That's part of the reason.
They're gonna have their moment. It takes time. Even I'm just speculating, but I know it will.
Comments, likes, all that good stuff. It really does help, and we will catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Onwards and upwards. Ciao.